What is up, you guys? I thought I'd just do a quick live stream about this past Saturday night at Houston. It was the first of the Triple Crown format in 2026 Supercross. And wow, what a wild race, at least in the 450 class anyway. I'm going to do just one video and I'm going to discuss both classes. But first off, guys, remember, subscribe if you think that I'm worth listening to, or if you just want to see some more of my games. I will hopefully have one up this coming week at least. But in the meantime, I'm going to get into this right now. Just get this over with. Okay, starting with the 250 class, there wasn't really a lot to talk about in terms of the win because Haiden Deegan fought through everybody to win it all. And to see him do the finger guns to Levi Kitchen over the finish line jump is a sure sign that Haiden Deegan has got the 250 class figured out. I haven't seen this kind of riding from someone in the 250 class and pulling off these kinds of wins in this capacity since probably Eli Tomac 10 years ago or 15 years ago when Tomac was an up-and-coming rookie to the Supercross series. Because, of course, he did turn pro in 2010, and he rode Supercross for the first time in 11. And after he got a third at Los Angeles, he pretty much became a front runner and a title threat year after year. But the way that I'm seeing Haiden Deegan ride and the fact that he uses the whole track just to get by everybody, what I see from Haiden Deegan now is almost identical to what I'm seeing from Eli Tomac back then when he was on the 250F. And that's good. That's good practice for him, for Deegan I'm talking about, because when he goes to the 450 in motocross this summer, I do still think he has a learning curve, but I do think that he will be ready to go. Is he going to sweep the season? I don't think so, unless he gets really, really lucky, because I do think that Deegan will have to adjust his style for the 450. And the big difference there between a 250 and the 450 is that, from what I've heard anyway, from what I've been told from some of my dad's riding buddies, and even my own dad himself, when you ride the 250F, you got to shift a lot of gears, upshift, downshift, whatever you want to do to get around the track. Because on a 450, you can be lazy and leave it in one gear in this section and then maybe upshift for another section or downshift for that next section. The way that I see Deegan ride the 450 on the World Supercross rounds, I do think he's ready, but like I said, I do still think he has a learning curve. And who could forget when Justin Barcia jumped up to the 450 and David Villeman was like, if I was Barcia's coach, I'd take the clutch off the bike, and have him ride around without a clutch, even though it's hypothetically impossible to do that. And I say hypothetically boldly. Okay? So, good on Haiden Deegan. He's making me look like a genius so far. I did pick him to win the title. Who knows if we'll see him on the 450 on the opposite coast? I kind of doubt it. But then again, for a points leader to jump up to the 450 or the big class when your division is on break is not unheard of. Just look at John Dowd in 1998 when he got moved over to the West Coast. And John Dowd jumped up to the 250 back when it was the 125 two-strokes and the 250 two-strokes. Dowd jumped up to the 250 two-stroke at the Eastern rounds and even got a win at Charlotte. And since then, no lights rider, or now it's the 250 class, no 250 rider has won a 450 Supercross since then. Let that little inkling stick in your mind for a while. Am I saying Deegan is going to do that if he rides a 450 on the opposite coast? No, but does he have a good chance to do so? So. But don't put it past him because there's a chance he could do it. So as far as Deegan is concerned, I did have a feeling that he was going to pass into the lead, I believe, around Ryder DeFrancesco. And give Ryder D credit, because that switch to Husqvarna has done him a lot of good. Just like what we're seeing on Eli Tomac going to KTM, because really what they say about Husky is that it's a KTM in disguise. And it looks like that Ryder D is really gelling with that Husky way better than he was with the Gas team. And to be frank, I'm not going to put it past him to podium again before this season is over. And that's where I'll leave it for the 450, for the 250s rather. Now to the 450 class, where all the wild stuff happened. We had a total of 4 different winners if you count the overall winner, and that was Cooper Webb. And congrats to Cooper Webb, because unlike 2022, when he won the title in 2021, he did not win a race in 2022. And I can remember some of the guys at Pulp MX were going over exactly what I was saying to my dad when we were bench racing a little bit, or at least having our own talks about this. The last time a rider won a Supercross title one year and didn't win a race the following year was Jeff Emig in 1998. How do I know that? 1998 was my first full year following the sport. And Emig was dealing with a lot of troubles on and off the bike. And Cooper Webb, I thought, was not dealing with some troubles off the bike. I do agree with what Cooksey said about that red flag at Anaheim 1 kind of doing him in. Because when things like that happen, that's a real momentum killer for sure. And for Cooper Webb, that was totally about this. It's happened to other people before. One guy who comes to mind is Tommy Hahn in 2007 when he got the whole shot in the 250 main at Orlando. And then a red flag came out because Ryan Dungey got taken out by Ryan Sipes, or I'm sorry, Matt Gerke, who had the bike come flying from the other lane right into Dungey. And as a result, Dungey was not able to make the restart because his bike was too busted up. And then in the restart, Tommy Hahn did not have justice given to him. He got a lousy start, and he didn't really fare too well that night. I'm kind of seeing the same. I was kind of seeing the same thing, or a similar, if not the exact same thing, with Cooper Webb when it came to this season, because Cooper Webb is a great rider, make no mistake, but the fact that he couldn't get a win in 2022 kind of stood out to me. And I was wondering if he was ever going to get a win, and he never did. But to see him right the wrong from that season, I'm sure Cooper's got to be feeling much better about himself now for not doing what he did, for not doing what he didn't do in 2022, which was win a race. And of course, this leads not liking the Triple Crown format. I don't like it. Why? The point structure. I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but first off, I also just want to address 2 more things. Hunter Lawrence. Oh, man. Can this guy get any closer? Because let me tell you, he is going to win one of these, but he's got to make sure that he stays consistent, because as soon as he got that 7th in the first race after that crash, I did not have a really good feeling that he was going to get this win. And if he did, it was going to be by the skin of his teeth. Because unlike AMA motocross, where you have 2 motos to race in, Triple Crown, you got 3 races. And if you goof up in the one that matters the most, you're just about hooped. And Hunter Lawrence, he did just that when he got that 7th in the first race. And Eli Tomac had a really scary crash in race number 2, and one that was enough to kind of make my head scratch, which also leads me into why I don't like the Triple Crown format. Now, fortunately, Tomac did come back to win the third race, and holy smokes, if that guy wasn't sore after that crash, I don't know what he's taking, but it is working. I don't know how much iron is in his diet, but whatever he had before the Houston race, he better have some more of it if he escaped some pretty serious injuries or at least didn't feel too sore. And now to what I kind of put off for a bit, the Triple Crown format. After 8 years running, you would think that whoever runs the series or the AMA or MX Sports would actually listen and change up the point structure for the Triple Crown format. Because there were a lot of people when it first came out in 2018. There were a lot of people, myself included, who said that they did not like the Triple Crown format. What's my reason for not liking the Triple Crown format? The point structure. I even asked this to David Pingree when he had his Ask Ping sections, and I really liked what he said, that he gave his answer from a track perspective. My perspective is the point structure. And like I said before in a prior video, Arena Cross had this down to a science back in the day. Now, Arena Cross, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in the era when Buddy Antunez was dominating the sport from 97 to 2001. And back then, they had a 125 main and a 250 main. They did not go by overalls. They just had two main events on 2 nights, line them up, drop the gate, you get your points in whatever place you finish. Now, granted, the field was only about 16 riders, maybe a little less than that, but still, I do believe that the Triple Crown format has to have full point structure, or at least divide it up. Why? Because those main events have to count in the record books for something. Case in point, look at Justin Brayton. In 2018, when he won one of the Triple Crown mains at Atlanta, and it's a good thing he won Daytona, because if he didn't win Daytona, we all know that Justin Brayton had won a main event, but it doesn't even show up in the record books because they go by overalls. That's why I like to see the Triple Crown format be switched to regular point structure, no overalls, and make the main events count for something. Okay? Now, for some of you who say, oh, you shouldn't do that, no way. Go back and watch some Arena Cross from back in the day, because the way that they ran it, they had it down to a science back then. And I don't know why MX Sports or whoever is running this series hasn't taken a hint and gone by full point structure for all 3 main events and no overalls. Okay? So what I'd like to see, keep the main events as is as far as distance is concerned. And for guys racing 3 main events, that's good. That's the only part I like. But overall, I didn't like the Triple Crown format because of the point structure. It has to go by full point structure like you would for a regular main event. Okay? Like Arena Cross back in the day. Because the way that it is, they had, like I said, they had 2 main events on 2 nights, and whatever place you finish in both main events, that's the points you got. They didn't go by overalls. That's why I think that they do need to ditch the overall format and just run 3 main events with full point structure. Keep the distances as is, 10 minutes for 2 races, 12 minutes for the final. But like I said, change the point structure. And I can't believe that it's taken them this long and it still falls on deaf ears to them when you think about it this way. So if you like that format, if you like my proposal for the Triple Crown format, more power to you. But if you don't, whatever. Because the way that, looking at how Eli Tomac had gone, if that 13th that he had in that second race went by full point structure, he would have been in major trouble as far as the championship is concerned. And that's what you want. You want things to spice up and make it a good points race. Because if you have a guy who's just winning everything, like what Haiden Deegan is doing in the 250 class, it's not really a fun series, to be honest. And to be frank, as far as the 450 class is concerned, there's no dominant rider yet, to be honest. And had Tomac had the full point structure, he'd have been in trouble as far as his points were concerned towards the championship. So that's my proposal for improving the Triple Crown format. Full point structure, no overalls. And that's where I'll leave it. So anyway, guys, that's all for today. And before I say goodbye, I also want to say that you haven't seen me upload the 2011 motocross season in full videos because before, when I was uploading all the classic races back in the day, I did upload the 2011 season with both motos from both classes separately. But just for fun, I decided to do so with the 2011 series as a whole video for all 11 races. And do expect some interruptions during the series with my recaps of the races and also of UH men's basketball. So just a little heads up there. So thought I'd get that out of the way. So anyway, guys, that's all for today. And remember, subscribe. I'll see you all again.